Hello, my name's Paul and this is Paul's British English. Today we're going to talk about 3 common mistakes that I hear from English learners from various different countries. So these mistakes could be made by Korean speakers, they could be made by Spanish speakers, they could be made by German speakers. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 common mistakes, why they're wrong, and then we'll try to fix them. Okay. The first one we're going to talk about is either missing a subject or getting the subject in a sentence incorrect. So if I ask you a question, if I say, "How are you today?" the subject in the answer has got to be I. So you've got to say, "I am fine, I'm bad, I'm not very good." But many of my students will actually say just good or bad or okay. Now, if you say that all the time and you just use the descriptive word, you just use the adjective to describe yourself, but you're not using any of the other structure, if you do that all the time, that could be a little rude. Okay, so the best bet is to answer the question completely, and to do that you need the appropriate subject. So if I say, "How are you today?" you have to say, "I am good." Many of my students sometimes will say, "It's good." Okay, it in that context is not the subject because I said, "How are you?" So you, and then the subject becomes I. Okay, equally, if I ask a student, "How was your weekend?" sometimes they might say, "Good," and again, a little bit rude if you just answer with one word all the time. Sometimes that's fine, but all the time you need to give more words than that in the answer, otherwise it can appear a little bit rude. But if somebody says, "How was your weekend?" sometimes students will say, "I am good," but again, the subject is wrong. Okay, you would need to say, "It was good." How was your weekend? It was good. It being a pronoun related to the word weekend. Okay, so that is making sure that you use the correct subject and you use the subject when answering a question. So when the question is asked, think, what's the subject? How do I answer this? And use the appropriate subject to answer and give a grammatically correct answer. The next mistake we're going to talk about is when you're talking about something that you prefer. Okay, so if I said to you, "Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla ice cream?" the correct response there would be, "It depends on what mood I'm in." So if you're going to use the phrase "it depends on what mood I'm in, it depends on what day it is." So "depends on" is the correct way of saying this. Sometimes students will say "it depends of." Now, "it depends of" may be correct in another language, but in English we don't use the preposition of, we use the preposition on. So you say "it depends on." Equally, students will sometimes say "it depends." It depends on. Okay, so it's not "it is," it's just "it depends on." And then you could say "it depends on the weather," "it depends on the time of year," "it depends on how I'm feeling." Or you might just know which one you prefer. For example, if somebody said to me, "Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla ice cream?" I don't need to use the word "depends on," the phrase "depends on," because I would just say chocolate. Okay. And the last one we're going to talk about is a verb which is used when you're talking about food. So when we're talking about food, we normally use the verb have or eat, but have is the common verb that's used. So I could say, "This morning I had some coffee." The mistake that I hear from students is they use the word take instead of the verb have. So they'll say, "This morning I took some coffee." That's not correct, because take in English means to take something away. So maybe if somebody else was drinking a cup of coffee and you wanted their cup of coffee, you would take their cup of coffee from them, which realistically is probably not what you mean. So you would say, "This morning I had a cup of coffee," or "Last night I had a pizza." Okay, you don't say take, because take could mean that you're kind of stealing it from someone, or it makes it sound like medicine, because if we're talking about medicine, you say take. So "This morning I took some medicine." Equally, you could say "This morning I had some medicine," but take is better when you're talking about medicine. When you're talking about food, it's much better to use the verb have. Okay, so those are some mistakes that I hear regularly. So remember, first one, choose the correct subject for the question that's being asked. So I or it, depending on whether they're asking about you or whether they're asking about a situation. The second one, it depends on, and then you say your preference. Okay. And the third one, when we're talking about food, we use the verb have, not the verb take. So I had a cup of coffee, I had a pizza last night, I had fried chicken. Okay. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Also, you can subscribe to us here on YouTube, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Naver, and we have our own website, which is www.paulsbritishenglish.com. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.